are. Appreciate you guys hanging with us on this Friday Eve, Thursday. Just wrap things up with Rob Motti of the Associated Press. If you missed any of that, you can always go to JAKIBsports.com and check it out, JAKIB Sports YouTube channel as well. Did want to pass along my condolences. Leo Carlin was the Eagles ticket manager for 55 years. He was a ticket manager that spanned Franklin Field, Veteran Stadium, and Lincoln Financial Field. He had an unbelievable run. And Paul Domowich has and welcome aboard, James. Appreciate you, man. Paul Domowich had a great book with Leo, just kind of recounting his years in the NFL. Just really, really good man. So he passed away. So condolences to his family. Yeah. Pretty crazy run. 55 years with any, I don't care where you're working. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's that old school mentality, right? Wherever your feet are, you grow roots, and it's remarkable, really, man. This day and age, people spend 3-4 years at a place and they move on, and to have that level of commitment to whatever you're doing, it is remarkable.
Yeah, no question. All right, very cool there. That he had the kind of life, and the Eagles put out a nice statement on it, being celebrated, and well deserved. So rest in peace. All right, back to the team that he worked for so long, the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought it was an interesting quote from Jalen yesterday when he said that, first thing you got to do is look in the mirror. So he, taking some accountability for improving things. And he said his offseason work has already begun. But so let's dive into some personnel challenges that the Birds have. Coach aside for a minute here. In your estimation, Tone, how great a fix is it to get Jalen back on the track, the trajectory, if you will, that he was on in the Super Bowl season versus the guy that we saw this past season? How big a challenge is that in your estimation?
I think it is going to be a challenge. I don't think it's going to be a challenge from the perspective of Jalen Hurts' work ethic. I believe he's going to give it everything he's got. So that's the one thing I'm not questioning. But I do believe it's going to be a challenge, just based off of what Rob Motti shared with us, right? The fact that there seems to be a playbook on Jalen Hurts, floating around the NFL. And he needs to do everything in his power to shift that narrative, to shift the way he's perceived by his peers. And look, Jalen Hurts, he took the league by storm last year. Shane Steichen, helped him get to that point. Also, the work ethic. Jalen Hurts has an uphill battle because the one thing that's plagued him from day one still plagues him to this day, and that's picking up the blitz. How much of that do we put on coaching? How much of that do we put on him? And the limitations of his ability. The last thing I want to do is place limitations on him. I want to believe that he can put himself in a position to, pick up blitzes and have the game slow down in such a way where there's nothing he hasn't seen. And that comes with being a franchise quarterback, right? The more games you play, the more defenses you begin to catalog, in your mind, and nothing begins to surprise you at that point. So Jalen Hurts just has to do a better job, in my opinion, of picking up the blitz or reading the blitz, knowing where it's coming from, standing tall in the pocket, climbing the pocket, not being so instinctual to flush left or flush right. I think his footwork took a step back this year. I feel like he threw a lot off that back foot this year. So I think he needs to get back in the lab and definitely work out the kinks to his game. But overall, I trust Jalen Hurts' work ethic, and I think that's the silver lining that most Eagle fans have.
I think the work ethic and self-awareness are there, and that's half the battle, in my opinion, with anybody in life. Like, if you're willing to put the work in and you realize you have shortcomings and you don't know it all and you're coachable in that sense, like I think that you can accomplish a lot, even if you aren't the most talented person in the world. And I'm not talking about Jalen. I'm just talking about in general. But I agree with you, Tone, in the sense, like, here's where I would really drill down. And we just talked to Rob Motti about this. Obviously, the blitz thing needs to be corrected on a lot of fronts. Like, you got to scheme it up better. Your line has to block it better, but the quarterback also has to recognize it better. And I would really go there. I would go with the secondary and tertiary reads, rather than, hey, look, I get it. If the first read's there, it's great, but that's not the NFL. A lot of times that's going to be taken away from you. They really got to work on that kind of stuff. And I am also going to be very curious, and we didn't hear anything yet about this yesterday, if he isn't more hurt than he's letting on. And if he is more hurt, get that fixed so he can be that dual threat that he had been. Let's face it, he really wasn't last year. I know he had a couple nice run plays, the Buffalo game, which ended, I know, but he wasn't the same. And the
He wasn't, yeah.
really went bye-bye. And I don't know if they were just trying to protect him or he was hurt. But either way, I think part of what makes him Jalen is the dual threat. Not that I want him running a million times, but they got to get him back, I think, healthy. And then most importantly, they got to figure out some things in the pocket with him that just weren't there last year or this past. Are we at last year phase already? Where are we? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is a bit strange, when you speak on it. I guess technically you'll say last year.
Yeah,
I'm still
in this year. Yeah,
I'm still in the mindset of this season. I tend to approach it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, Jalen Hurts, he can't afford, in my opinion. Okay, I look at it like this. With that level of investment, he can't afford to not get back to Jalen Hurts football. And I would like for the organization to allow him to get back to Jalen Hurts football, because ultimately you invested in him for what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you expect him to develop, but I feel like they're trying to fast track his development, try to limit the running situations they put him in.
Right.
But yet I feel like they ran him on a lot of quarterback draws this season. So it was very conflicting. It was very conflicting in terms of how they want to use him and thinking about the health part of it. My mindset is this. Look, if Jalen Hurts' career lasts 10 years, and he gives you one Super Bowl out of it, it was a win. That's how I look at it, right? If Jalen Hurts' career lasts,
do you mean win a Super Bowl or just what we got last year?
No, if he wins one.
Okay.
No. If he wins one, he has to win it.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So even if his career lasts 8 years, look, a lot of people talk about these dual threat guys and say, well, they don't have a shelf life. Fair enough, and I'm not going to argue with that. The proof's in the pudding. But if he gives you 8 years of prime Jalen Hurts football and you get a Super Bowl,
or
if you're blessed to get
sign me up right now.
It's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win. So I feel like sometimes people get too concerned about the length of a guy's career or these organizations. It's like, look, man, you know what you signed up for. You know what you paid it for. Okay, don't try to change him now. And now that you get in the bag of money, you feel like you got leverage over him. No,
I would
he is who he is.
Thrilled if that's what they got. 8 years and a chip. Forget it. I mean,
he retires. Like I'm not mad at it. You know what I'm saying? Like some careers don't last 20 years, 15 years. If Jalen Hurts gives you a solid,
man,
especially with the style of play. So if Jalen, again, if you know the horse you're investing in, you'll be okay with the outcome. Yeah. And when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, to me, it felt like they invested in one product and they were trying to get something else out of it.
Yeah.
And again, Jalen Hurts' completion percentage pretty much maintained the same, with more attempts, and touchdowns went up a little bit. Yards went up a little bit. Overall, he's the same player statistically, just more turnovers. Mm-hmm. Let him be him, though. It didn't look the same. The optics weren't the same. The feel wasn't the same.
That's what I would love to get to the bottom of. Was he not healthy enough to be him? Or were they just trying to protect him? If he's healthy, then let him get back to being him all the way. All right, let's go to what I think is issue number 2. This is hard. The Eagles back 7. Your linebacking core of Zach Cunningham, Nick Morrow, your safety duo of Byard and Blankenship, and your corners of Slay and Bradbury and Avonte Maddox. Before we even dive into it, I'll just tell you this is not going to be easy, and don't think this is going to be fixed in 1 year. You're still going to have issues back there next year. I don't care who the coordinator is or the head coach, but it has to be better than this. You have got to invest in these positions better. I know they pay the corners a lot. I'm talking linebackers, whether that's drafting somebody high enough who's not a reach kind of guy like Nakobe Dean, like Trotter Jr. I'll just throw it out there, but it's, whatever, wishful thinking. Or it's paying a little bit of money to get a guy in here who can actually make some plays at linebacker. You have got to figure safety out, man. Byard's going to be gone. I'm okay with Blankenship coming back, but I don't know if I want him in as prominent a role as he had last year. And then Bradbury, 100% gone. Eat the $17 million. Easy for me to say, but you got to do it. Mm-hmm. Put somebody better next to Slay.
Yeah, how does the old rock song go? TNT.
Yeah.
Dynamite. You got to blow it up, baby. You got to blow it up,
my friend. Yep.
You got to blow up that back seven, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
I like Reed. Here's the thing, right? I was talking to Cilio about this, and I tend to agree. One of the most important things for organization is to be able to balance your salary cap, right?
Yeah.
And this coincides with hitting on your draft picks, because when you hit on your draft picks, you have you're getting production from guys for lesser money, right? You're getting production from guys in the rookie deals, and it gives you flexibility, and you can build off of that, right? Reed Blankenship in my opinion, is the prototypical balanced salary cap type of player. He's not, and look, every team values certain positions. Some teams value safeties more than linebackers. Some teams value D line more than safety. Some teams value linebacker more than corner. It all depends on your situation and how your defense is being played. But overall, the Philadelphia Eagles have to find a way to not only balance their salary cap, but make sure they have talented young players so it can all make sense and so it can work. When you're constantly trying to recover from whiffing on a player in the draft with free agents and things like that, you're kind of blowing money. You're blowing money and you're blowing draft picks. It's so important for teams to hit on their draft picks so the salary cap can remain balanced. And with Reed Blankenship, I think he's a talented I think he's more hard work than talent. And I believe he's more fundamentals than talent as well, more technique than talent. He's not the most athletically gifted. He's not the most talented safety, but he knows where to be, how to get there. He knows how to play the position. He understands what his responsibilities are. He tackles very well. So maybe in the Philadelphia Eagles, from their standpoint, maybe they don't want to invest big money in the safety position, right? Okay, that's fine. But you have to have a high quality, or you have to have a competent starter or young player back there that can limit the damage. You have to do a better job of hitting in the draft so you can give yourself that flexibility. That back seven, it's going to be so important for the Philadelphia Eagles to get some production out of this, this new crop of corners they got with Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks. If they have a future here, it's going to be important for them to hit in the draft. That's how I see this thing, right? That's how I see the defense. If you're going to spend more money on offense and defense, you have to make sure you're hitting on those defensive draft picks so you have people playing up to the level of the standard.
Yeah, and if you're not going to spend a lot, buy a free agency or whatever, you better draft well.
Right, you have to. That's why the Bills' defense is so good, because they've had injuries, but their depth and their ability to coach those guys up, and they drafted pretty well. It puts them in a good position, right? The Niners, same thing. They drafted very well on defense, and obviously having Brock Purdy on that cheap deal makes it a lot easier. But overall, a lot of those teams have hit on their defensive draft picks, and it gave them that space to have, maybe their defense isn't the best, but they have a good enough defense, and it's reliable enough and stable enough and competent enough where your offense can lead the charge. The Eagles got to get back to that, or find a way to find that balance of the salary cap with talent.
All right, let's stay on the defense here, Tone. The new coordinator, new coach, whatever, needs to figure out why the D-line underachieved the way that it did. Why you went from 70 sacks to 40-something sacks. Why we saw basically very little out of the edge rushers, guys like Reddick, guys like Sweat, to close out the year. Why your young defensive line looked like they were playing in their 25th year, and they were completely exhausted and gutted. This to me, other than this has to be, you've put so much into that D-line. They have to be great. They can't be okay, and they certainly can't be whatever less than mediocre they were last year. So that has to be figured out, because there is enough talent there. And I know there's a big question with Fletcher Cox coming back or not, but there's enough talent there where that's got to be righted.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. The 70 sacks is such an anomaly. I try not to use that as like the standard. So for me, what I'll say is, why weren't you guys in the top 5 in sack totals? Right? That's what I would more so lean towards, rather than why'd you go from 70 to 40, 44?
Yeah.
Because 70 is such a large number in this, even in this day and age. So My real question is, why weren't you in the top 5 in sack totals? Why weren't you effective? I watched that Buccaneers game, and they really could. Yeah, I know they had some sacks in that game, but if you really was paying attention, they really wasn't getting home like that.
Right.
They were pushing, but it kind of seemed like they ran into brick walls after a while. That D-line, they spent so much money on it. They spent so much draft capital on it. It's criminal that they fell off the way they did and how and how they did it. You know, talking about fatigue. Look, we could debate fatigue. We could debate all conditioning. We can get into all that kind of stuff. But I think we have to ask ourselves, are the Philadelphia Eagles doing the offseason right? You know, are they grinding enough? Are they putting enough emphasis on making these guys sweat? You know, I see some of these other coaches, you know, that's willing to take the fine. You know, they'll live with it. Hey, listen, you find us, all right, cool, whatever. We're still practicing over here. You know, with Hargrave saying what he said, and obviously Hargrave is not a clickbait type of guy, not a hot take dude. When he said what he said about the Eagles practice in comparison to the Niners, it's telling, man. They got to get these young guys in the lab. They got to get these guys grinding. They got to, you know, restore that, you know, and also these guys are top tier picks. You got so many first rounders on that D line, you know, in that pass rush. You got guys getting first rounder money. Step up, step your weight up, okay? You know, at a certain point, I'm not looking at coaches. At a certain point, I'm looking at y'all too. Y'all getting paid. Y'all well taken care of. Y'all fed well. Y'all get the massages and all that kind of stuff. The travel is better than the traveling accommodations are better than it's ever been. Step your damn weight up, fellas. Come on, man. We've never like this is not Philadelphia Eagles football.
Well,
how does your run defense go from stopping teams to 60 yards, then you're giving up 140, 150 yards? Make it make sense. Step your damn weight up, okay? Have some accountability.
That's the thing. You know, we can sit back and objectively look at the back seven and say, they're not good enough. Like, you better upgrade the talent there.
Right.
I can't give the benefit of the doubt to the front four. You had enough.
You can't.
So be better, man. Be better.
Not much has changed.
And I don't want to hear like this. That's especially where I don't want to hear like blaming Desai or whatever, man. Like, listen, just be better. When
the D line, in my opinion, the D line is more effort than scheme.
Yep.
And there's a disconnect right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if we're looking at Tracy Rocker. I don't know if we're looking at Sean Desai, Matt Patricia. But overall, it comes down to those players' effort and want to and will. And run defense is a desire. Tackling is a desire. It's a mindset. And when you don't want to tackle, when you can't beat this defensive line easily, everybody would say it's top 5, top 3 in the NFL. And
didn't play like it.
They didn't play like it on the back end. Again, to go from 60 rushing yards given up to around 140, 150, that doesn't add up to
beyond unacceptable. And you weren't hurt. If you had fourth stringers lining up, I'd cut you some slack. All right. Now this one we don't know yet, but replacing Kelsey is going to be interesting. I don't think anybody is foolish enough to think whoever steps in there is going to play at the same level or anywhere near the level right away. But we know it's going to be Juergens. And the question is, what do you do? Who slides into the guard spot? Is it Steen? Is it one of the more veteran guys? Whatever. Which means you could take a hit maybe at both spots. You know, you could maybe not be as good at center. You could maybe not be as good at guard. So that's the challenge that you're going to have, you know, for the first time in a while. I know they lost Sayamalo, who was a really solid player, but this one, I think they're going to feel a little bit. And it's something they're going to have to,
absolutely. I mean, let's be honest about this. Kelsey, some would argue he had a slight downtick this year. You know, I'm more so on that side as well. But overall, when you're that great, and you make first team All Pro, my opinion is moot. Yep. You know what I'm saying? It's like, for a guy to be playing at the top of his craft at that level still to this day, getting first team All Pros above all these young guys, that's insane. So it makes his decision that much harder. You know you're at the top of your game in terms of just skill, technique. You're still dominating guys, in the open field, in those impact blocks. You know, he is arguably the GOAT of centers. He's up there.
No doubt.
But but then there has to be life after him. And are the Philadelphia Eagles fully prepared to make that transition? I'm unsure. Cam Jurgens has some ups, has some downs. But the one thing above all else that I don't like about Cam Jurgens is the inability to stay healthy. Jason Kelce, what made him remarkable outside of just the skill set and the work ethic, what made him so remarkable is the health factor.
Showed up
how
every
he
game.
was always available.
Yeah.
He was an Iron Man.
Mhm.
He hasn't missed a game. Let's make sure we get this thing right, because I want to make sure we give him
It's
his
crazy.
flowers
It's been like
completely.
10 years, right? It's been something
So
nuts.
as of right now, based off everything I've seen here, Jason Kelce hasn't missed a game since 2014.
Wow. Yep.
Put that in perspective, Philadelphia Eagles
At
fans.
center, where
At
every
center, when you're
play
in the gut of it.
is not, and that's. Did you read the really funny quote? Laura Oakman, who's a sideline reporter for Fox.
No, I missed it.
She asked Kelce what it was like being in the middle of those tush pushes, and he said every time the play came in, he said to himself, "Bleep my life," because he takes an absolute beating on the tush push. So, I mean, think about that. It's not just the tush push. Every play, man, you are banging with the biggest cats in the world.
And he's undersized for the position.
Yeah, he is. He's dealing with guys who were 20, 30 pounds heavier than him in some cases.
So again, Cam Jurgens, is he ready to step up? I like the talent, right?
Yeah.
I like, and ultimately a lot of these O-linemen, they don't really, O-linemen develop. It takes them a longer time to develop. And typically O-linemen don't really hit their stride really until about 27, 28, 29, going into their 30s. That's when offensive linemen, in my opinion, I think the best offensive linemen are between ages 28 and 32. Well, let me expand that, between 28 and 34, because Jason Kelce is still doing his thing, Trent Williams, so on and so forth, for Tyron Smith. Like, these guys are dinosaurs, but they're the hardest dinosaurs to kill. No meteor can knock these guys out. You feel me? Yeah. So Cam Jurgens has big shoes to fill, and Cam Jurgens also has to find a way to stay healthy. That's the most alarming part about transitioning to Cam Jurgens for me, not the talent, the health.
Yeah.
We can't afford, to keep having a center in and out of the lineup. That messes with a lot. So Cam Jurgens, I don't know what it is, man. Eat your Wheaties, get your protein, your Pedialyte, whatever you need to do, player. Try to make sure them bones get a little stronger. Drink some milk. Do something.
I hear you. All right, let's go with another one that we probably will start focusing on soon, but we haven't looked much at, and I get it. But who's going to be the number one running back? DeAndre Swift said yesterday he loved his time here, and he was very frank. He said, I'm a free agent, and I want to test the waters. In other words, I want to get paid, and I don't blame you, because at the position that he plays, this has to be the time that you get it. Like, you got to get yours now. This is his first time after his rookie deal where he's got to get it might be the only big contract that you get. And big is relatively speaking, because the NFL doesn't respect his position. But who's the number one if he's gone, if he's elsewhere?
I lost you. Can you say that one more time?
Who's the number one running back if DeAndre Swift walks in free agency?
Hoo-wee.
Yeah.
He's not in his roster.
Yeah.
He's not in his roster. My love affair with Kenny Gainwell ended some time ago. There was a point in time where I was on a Kenny Gainwell hype train. I felt like he had better vision than Miles Sanders. I felt like he ran with more power than Miles Sanders. Felt like he was better in the pass game than Miles Sanders, right? But Kenny Gainwell, in my humble opinion, has never taken that step. Kenny Gainwell has, in my opinion, he's the same player from his rookie year. And that's what's most disappointing about Kenny Gainwell, in my humble opinion. Now, am I judging him correctly? Am I expecting too much? I don't know. But when this team uses you the way they use you, and how much they sing your praises, and how much they're willing to go to bat for you, okay, I need to see why. And I've yet to see really why Kenny Gainwell got some of the snaps that he got. Kenny Gainwell hasn't shown me anything that says he's better than Boston Scott. I'm being honest. That's just my humble opinion. I feel like Boston Scott runs with more power. I feel like Boston Scott doesn't waste time in the backfield. I feel like Boston Scott always gets you 4 yards. Somehow, some way, he's hard to find back there. Kenny Gainwell is not going to be the number one. He shouldn't be a number one anywhere. I think they need to find a way to get some power in that, in that running back room. I'm on board with signing a free agent running back and then drafting one.
Right.
However you want to delineate the skill set, you do that on your own. But overall, I think they need to draft a running back for sure. Get younger there. Draft a young power guy. That's what I want. Draft a young power guy with some fresh legs, and then maybe you sign a guy in free agency, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah,
but it's not going to be Swift. Swift is good as gone.
I'm going to hold out hope that he's not good as gone. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, because I like a guy who he showed you everything. He showed you he could run between the tackles and run hard. He stayed healthy. He can be explosive just in terms of space. He can catch the ball. I would say it's more likely he's gone than not, but I'm going to hold out some hope.
And I like Swift, right? He's a Philly guy.
Yep.
I like Swift a lot, but I'm just thinking about their trend, how they look, how they view the position, right? Rob Motti said it best, trying to think about what's needed and what they should do and trying to balance that with their history and their trends. That's the conundrum that we're all in right now, covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. And will this be the offseason where they buck their trend?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm betting on that.
All right. Well, let me pick it up here, and I want to play off of that a little bit with the next thing I want to discuss. Depth at receiver and tight end. Granted, this is not the top of the list stuff. The other stuff is the top of the list stuff, but you need to do better after Devontae and AJ at receiver, because we can't expect them. And we saw it with AJ, who got hurt at the end of the year, to play 17 games. You can't fall off the way they did with Zacchaeus and Quez Watkins and we know the whole crew. And you can't fall off after Goddard, because Goddard can't stay healthy himself with Stoll and Calcaterra and Albert O. You have to find more competent, qualified guys to go out there and make plays for you and take some of the heat off of the number ones sometimes.
They get no production out of the number 3 receiver position like other teams do.
Yep.
I've always felt like at the number 3 receiver spot, you may not be the biggest, you may not be the fastest, you may not be the best in anything. But I feel like above all else, you have to have sure hands. Got to be reliable. Got to be able to run your routes correctly, even if you're not the fastest. Got to be able to run them correctly. And they didn't get that out of Quez Watkins, obviously. I like Olamide Zacchaeus. I don't think they gave him enough opportunities. And when you give the number 3 receiver opportunities, it expands the entire range of your offense, right? When you're feeding more guys than just one, it makes your offense so hard to prepare for. With the Eagles, they're easy to game plan for. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, maybe Goddard. Okay, easy. It's the Eagles got to do a better job at maximizing that number 3 receiver position. And again, I'm not saying take away. I'm not saying don't make AJ Brown and Devontae Smith a priority. They're your big ticket guys, right? They're box office. You want to get the ball in those guys' hands. But I feel like you got to have a game where, or you got to find a way to average 3 to 5 targets for your number 3, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's just my mindset. They don't get enough out of that slot at all.
Right, and it's been an issue for a while here, for sure, with this in terms of depth. So that's another area they need to improve. All right, let's hit it, Tone. Let's come back, and we're going to dive a little bit more into Jalen Hurts in the sense that where is he reputationally? Where is he in comparison to the other elite quarterbacks in the game? Where does he rank after the way that this year went down? So we'll do a lot on that. There's a ton in the NFL segment. Yeah,
this next segment is going to upset a lot of people.
I think it is. I think it's
going to make a lot of people uncomfortable.
And you got to really think here about this and be real. We have to be real with ourselves with this.
Right. One. So. And again, also, the next segment, it's not an indictment on his career.
No, it's 25.
Right. We're talking about today.
Yep.
Today.
Yep.
And we're gonna flush it out, in the next segment. So, stay tuned, you guys. Be prepared to be pissed off.
Right on. All right. So we'll do that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Tone to Shields, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network, Pro Action Restoration. They are the place to turn to if you have a home, a business, or a property, and you go through the inconvenience and the pain of water, fire, smoke, or mold damage. Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I can vouch for that because they have helped me in a couple of circumstances back in the day at my parents' house, where they were, a couple of older people who were having a really hard time with water damage and getting it fixed and whatnot. And Pro Action showed up, fixed the problem, and everything was smooth sailing from there. I could tell you from personal experience, a couple of months back when I had a leak from an upstairs bathroom into a downstairs bathroom that caused a lot of damage. They came out, they fixed it, and it was really one-stop shopping for all of the repair that I needed. And they are just unbelievable to work with. Pro Action Restoration is licensed, bonded, fully insured, serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. They will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online, proactionrestoration.com. That's Pro Action Restoration.